Welcome back to the Mets post-game show here. How is everyone doing? Mets Nation, I definitely appreciate you all taking the time to come and discuss this Mets loss after the failed comeback attempt. It's a 3-2 loss in the final game of the Kansas City Royals series before the All-Star break. It was the final series, and the Mets couldn't get the job done in terms of getting the sweep. So we're going to be talking about this game very briefly. Again, a very nice comeback attempt. The offense got things going as of late, but they were kind of asleep all game long before that. Before we fully get into this breakdown on the channel, make sure to hit those thumbs up buttons. I definitely appreciate it. Subscribe for more content and check out all the previous content as well. The Mets were out hit 10-9 in this game, and they fall to 55-42 on the season heading into the All-Star break, 13 games over 500, which all in all isn't so bad, especially given how brutal of a 3-week stretch they had. And it's nice to go out on top with a series victory, but getting that sweep, especially with the comeback effort, would have been that much better. Wish we could have spammed some W's in this post game, but unfortunately, that's just not in the cards for today to end our Sundays. Drop those comments in the live chat. I definitely appreciate it. I'll go ahead and shout some people out. Shout out to Will, Red Bear, David, Brad, Ken. I definitely appreciate you all being here as well. This offense is bad. Absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, the offense is bad. Will is pissed off. I'm pissed off too. This offense is bad. Let's call it for what it is. Noah Cameron, we talked about it in the pregame stream. Noah Cameron is a talented pitcher. He's a lefty, he's a rookie, and he's having a successful season, and he throws the kitchen sink at you and evenly distributes his pitches. And that's exactly what he did against the New York Mets. He made light work of the New York Mets lineup in this game. He made light work of them. And this was such a quick game. This is a quick game. And it's largely due to good pitching outside of Clay Holmes' one inning, right, where he kind of got roughed up a little bit. But and we'll get into Sean Manaea, all that fun stuff as well. But the Mets offense were just not taking competitive at bats against Noah Cameron. That's the problem. Let's look at the box score here. Let's take a look at this overall box score. We'll get into the pitching second because that was really the only good thing outside of that ninth inning. The only good thing that you can say about this game from the New York Mets perspective was Sean Manaea. I mean, Clay Holmes had himself a respectable outing as well, giving up the 2 earned runs early. But Sean Manaea came back and had a very, very successful debut. Even though he gave up, right, the walk-off hit in that ninth inning, he had a very successful debut. And this is just a taste of what he's going to provide this rotation moving forward as he goes 3 1/3 innings pitch with 1 earned run over 65 pitches in his first outing of the season since coming back off the IL with an oblique injury and a setback with the loose bodies in his elbow. But look at the lineup. Just uninspiring. Take a look at the left-handed side of what I'm talking about. Lindor 0 for 5, 2 strikeouts today, right? Soto 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts today. Juan Soto did not look comfortable against Noah Cameron. Lefty on lefty matchup, he did not look comfortable whatsoever. Alonso getting on base at an alarming rate right there with 3 walks and a strikeout as well, going 0 for 1. Like, the Mets had opportunities in this game. They had opportunities, and we keep saying this about the Mets offense. And so when Steve Cohen decides to tweet out, I don't think that the runners in scoring position problems are going to last with this team, and that was weeks ago. Well, Steve, they have lasted 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position again today. This was a winnable game. By every stretch of the imagination, this was a winnable game. And we keep having these same conversations about the Mets' losses this season, and it's becoming a recurring pattern that they are losing winnable games because they cannot hit with runners in scoring position. That's the bottom line. Luis Torrens, again, is a negative with his bat. An absolute negative. There's no production that Luis Torrens is giving you. Zero. Zero. Luis Angel Acuna, uncompetitive at bats. I know he got a base hit, but I mean, the first two at bats were just egregious. Mauricio turning it around. He ends the day 2 for 4 and started the rally with a double over the left fielder's head. Tyrone Taylor showed up to play as well, 2 for 3 on the day. Vientos in the 2-hole. That's what I'm talking about from Mark Vientos. I love it. That's 2-hole Vientos, classic 2-hole Vientos. Starts the game off with the triple. Next at bat, single over the shortstop's head. And the Mets, again, we're just getting traffic on the bases. 1 out in the first inning after the Lindor strikeout. 1 out, triple by Vientos. Juan Soto hits a ground ball. The shortstop can't advance the runner. Pete Alonso is intentionally walked. Brandon Nimmo fouls out. And that's like, I can count maybe 3 times in the past week, going back to the Orioles series, where the Mets were threatening in the early stages of the game, and they just could not get the runner across. And that comes back to haunt you, especially when you have a good pitcher on the mound opposing you, like Noah Cameron. That's what happens. That's what happens. So just uninspiring offense for the better part of 8 innings today. Clay Holmes, let's talk about the pitching here. Clay Holmes went 5 innings. He gave up the 2 earned runs. He threw 81 pitches. His ERA is 3.31 on the season. Only 2 strikeouts, 5 hits given up, and 1 walk. Clay Holmes didn't have his best stuff, you can tell. He was kind of laboring out there. He was just getting by. That's my honest assessment of this Clay Holmes outing, right? And he kept this team in the ball game, even though not having his best stuff. He kept this team in the ball game within striking distance, and the offense just simply couldn't help him out, which is unfortunate. So Clay Holmes didn't have his best stuff, but you know who did have his best stuff? Sean Manaea had his best stuff. 7 strikeouts over 3 1/3 innings pitched. 1 earned run given up, although it was the walk-off. 65 pitches, no walks, 5 hits surrendered. I mean, he was just honestly dominating that Royals lineup. It looked like they were flustered against Sean Manaea. It looked like that cross-body motion was deceiving them vastly, like greatly. And so that's a really good sign. Even though this is a loss for the New York Mets, to get that type of outing from Sean Manaea and hopefully having him build and work his pitch count upwards of 65 plus next outing after the All-Star break is a good sign. That's the win that the Mets get from this game, even though it's a loss in the win-loss column. But it's hard for me to talk about pitching, right? As decent as Clay Holmes was, he was okay. As good as Sean Manaea was, it's kind of hard for me to, be on this post-game stream and talk about pitching continuously when this offense just simply cannot get it going. I want to give a couple of shout outs. Jeff McNeil coming off the bench and having himself an absolute great at bat. Isbell, running into the wall. He ran into the wall. Jeff McNeil, RBI triple, scoring Ronnie Mauricio after his leadoff double, setting up the comeback. Really good stuff to see. I'm just curious. And someone commented this on the pregame stream after the stream ended, and I didn't make note of it in the pregame, but I was thinking to myself, like, that's a great point. If this team is so analytically driven, if they love the left-right matchup so much, I'm assuming they take a look at the splits when they're making the daily lineups. You have Ronnie Mauricio, who came into this game, like he got a hit, I understand, in his first at bat as a right-handed hitter. But he came into this game facing a lefty. Clearly, we all know that he was going to be a right-handed hitter. He came into this game hitting 111 as a right-handed bat. And Jeff McNeil this season has gone against all of the left-right pitching matchup odds that this Mets team operates under. And he is more efficient against lefties as a lefty bat than righties. Let's take a look at the splits real quick from Jeff McNeil as I pull up his baseball reference page. Because, I know that he was decent against lefties, but I didn't know that it was this drastic of a difference with his splits. And so therefore, when they're making the lineup And they're sitting Jeff McNeil on the bench today against a lefty when he's been doing great against lefties. And they're putting a guy like Mauricio in, who was coming into this game hitting 111 as a right-handed bat against lefties. It just makes me just wonder what's going on and what the thought process actually is. Now, Jeff McNeil's OPS is higher against right-handed pitching because he hits for more power, I would suppose. He's got 9 home runs against righties versus none against lefties. But he's hitting 290 against left-handed pitching as opposed to 241 against right-handed pitching, and his on-base percentage is also higher. So again, I don't understand. I hope there's a rhyme or reason to it, but I don't understand that in terms of an actual lineup making, decision making for the lineup. Like, that's what I don't understand. And so that comment that I got on my stream really made me think when I saw the Mets lineup. It really made me think. And because Jeff McNeil came in and, albeit I know it was against the righty, he hit the triple against Carlos Estevez, who is having a great season. And clearly, we talked about him on the pregame and how I would love for the Mets to go after Carlos Estevez, but the Mets just have his number. That the Mets just simply have Carlos Estevez's number. He's an all-star this year. He's pitching to like a 1.48 ERA, something around there in the ballpark. And the last 3 outings, even going back to his days, last season as a Philly, he's blown 3 of his last 3 saves against the New York Mets, but he does pretty well against most other teams. So, he's got electric stuff. He's a good pitcher. I just don't know what it is about the New York Mets that he can't figure out. But that's the case. But good at bats by Ronnie Mauricio starting things off in the 9th inning. A good at bat by Jeff McNeil coming into the game, staying loose, getting his number called, getting the RBI. And a really good at bat by Jared Young, also pinch hitting right behind Jeff McNeil against Estevez to hit the sacrifice fly to bring Jeff McNeil home, I should say, to tie up the ball game at that point. And Jared Young, again, the veteran bat, I think we all complained. I definitely complained about him coming up, maybe not moving the needle. A veteran has to stay ready like that. And I guess that's the reason you do bring up a veteran, to get into that situation and feel comfortable enough to get the job done, which he did. But notice one thing about that at bat. It was very short because he got a fastball over the plate and he attacked it. And he hit it to center field, and it was deep enough to get Jeff McNeil in from home. So when we're talking about working these counts, it's nonsense. Doesn't matter what the situation is, if you get a fastball that you think you can handle in the first pitch of the at-bat, attack it and good things will happen, just like in that Jared Young at-bat in the 9th inning to tie things up. That's exactly what I talk about when I say I want these hitters to be aggressive. Now, obviously, there's a time and a place in a situation, and it all depends on, who's on the bases, what the game situation is, etc. But I was really impressed with that Jared Young at bat coming into the ball game late to try to get a job done after Brett Beatty failed. So that was good. Let me get back into the comment section here. I definitely appreciate it. Again, 31 people in this chat. Make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more Mets content. I know that losses are very tough to talk about. I'm not going to be on here for too much longer. I promise. I'll let everybody enjoy their Sundays. Hopefully you all are already enjoying your Sunday. I got a video talking about a bullpen target releasing at 8:30 p.m. tonight on the channel. So go check it out as this team looks for a way to improve upon itself. I know it's not a bat. We'll talk bats later, because this team definitely does need a bat with the way this offense is rolling. And they also need to figure out how and why Eric Chavez is still employed with this team. But other than that, I think they need a bat. And so when you tell me, you won't try to make a move for Eugenio Suarez, I kind of look sideways and I'm like, what about this offense inspires any confidence going into the second half and not going and being aggressive for a bat like the likes of Eugenio Suarez? Anyways, drop the comments in the live chat. Thoroughly enjoying these comments. I appreciate it. Let me go here through the comments section in this chat to see what you all are saying. This game is a perfect example of why Terens and Acuna do not belong in a major league lineup. I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, the at-bats from both of those guys. I told you on the pregame when I saw this lineup come out, I said those bottom three, Tyrone Taylor included, he had himself a good day, but the other two don't inspire any confidence from me. They don't inspire any confidence from me. 13 games over 500, not so bad. Yeah, 13 games over 500 isn't so bad. I said that at the top of the stream, Ken. I said that 13 games, the record right now going into the All-Star break, I'll take it. It's fine. That's what I said. Salute to Paula. Definitely appreciate it. Lindor, Soto, and Alonso looked like they started their All-Star break a game early. Yeah, they didn't look inspired up at the box. Absolutely 100%. Especially Juan Soto. He did not look comfortable at all. And we talk about Alvy has power again. We will talk about that here before we end this stream. 100%. I have that prepared for you in the next slide. Elvin says, told you this lineup was a mess today. No synergy whatsoever. They did not show up. Absolutely. Yeah. Appreciate you all being here. Stearns better make trades for a bat, period, says Caps. I agree. I think this team definitely needs at least a bat to get things going. Let's see what rando we get in this draft tonight. I honestly didn't even know the draft was tonight. I didn't know that the draft was tonight. That's funny. What pick did the Mets have? What pick did the Mets have? I'm curious. Yeah, this is a big takeaway, Dwayne. This is a big takeaway. And I think that this is the other win that we can take away from this game is that Vientos looks competent at the plate again. Vientos looks confident at the plate again and competent, right? Confident and competent, the two C's. We love to see it. Because if Vientos remains on this team in the second half, this team is going to need Vientos to get going. They're going to need him to get back to the production level, even if it's a fraction of what he produced in the postseason. That was a magical postseason run by the Mets and also Mark Vientos. And he had a really good season as well in 2024, but they really need him to get going. They need him to get going. So positives from this game, right? Good comeback. I guess the offense, I guess they came alive at the end of the game. I don't even want to say that, but like I'll give him at least that. Sean Manaea is the positive. Mark Vientos is the positive. That's it. That's it for me. And how I assess this game. That Ford is saying 38th pick. Okay, so 38th pick. It makes sense. I didn't think that the Mets had. I mean, it's a second rounder, so I didn't think the Mets had a first rounder. So that's the penalty you get when you have a consistent. And it was when you spend money. When you spend money, that's the penalty you get. Unfortunately, makes no sense. Should be the opposite. Honestly, these teams that don't spend money should be getting no draft picks. So. All right, let's talk about. Listen, I mean, is there anything else anyone wants to talk about this game in terms of the box score? Because I'm not gonna lie, I have nothing else. I mean, Brandon Nimmo didn't really have great at bats. He comes away 1 for 4. The top 5 outside of Vientos didn't have good at bats. Lindor looked lost today. 0 for 5, 2 strikeouts. He was swinging at some pretty horrible pitches out of the zone. And he was getting himself into good counts. He was getting himself into hitters' counts. I'm talking 3-1, 2-1, etc. But when the hitters' counts presented itself to Francisco Lindor, I don't know why, but he felt like he needed to expand the zone, and he was swinging at some garbage pitches. Garbage pitches. So yeah, Terens. This is going to lead me into the next topic that we'll talk about here for just a second before we end this stream. Again, it's going to be a very quick one, so you all can enjoy the rest of your Sunday as well as me before we start up this All-Star break. Luis Terens, again, this guy is not producing anything at the plate. Luis Terens is not helping this team out. He did throw another runner out today, which was good to see at third base, but he is not producing anything offensively. Anything. And if you thought Alvarez's production was bad, now we're getting a taste of what Luis Terens has at the plate, which is nothing. And speaking of Francisco Alvarez, look at this tweet from Anthony DiComo to my right. Francisco Alvarez is 3 for 3 today. This was today with a homer and 2 doubles for AAA Syracuse. The homer came off of a top 10 prospect in the entire MLB pipeline. So a decent pitcher, we would hope. Alvarez has 8 home runs and 64 plate appearances since his demotion to AAA from the majors, though he has a 28.1% strikeout rate. And that 28.1% strikeout rate is higher than it was in the majors. It was higher than his strikeout rate in the majors. Is this not what I've been saying this whole time and what Rob has been saying this whole time? We even talked about it in the pregame show today. We don't need Francisco Alvarez to be hitting 250, 260. We don't care if he strikes out at a little bit of a higher rate. We don't care. If he has his power like he does in AAA right now, nobody is batting an eye. Maybe outside of Eric Chavez, who I guess his sole philosophy is lower strikeout rates and higher contact percentages. And that was, it worked out great for Francisco Alvarez the first time around in the MLB this year, right, Mr. Chavez? That whole philosophy, cut down the strikeout rate, prioritize contact, that worked out so great, right? Well, now he has a higher strikeout percentage in AAA, but he's hitting the ball over the fence. It's not rocket science. There are certain guys in this league. Vientos is one of them. Eugenio Suarez is probably another, because I saw someone in the pregame chat have some concerns about his strikeout rate, but he's got 30 home runs. And Alvarez is another guy. If you strike out, I don't care. Put the ball over the fence and in the gap at a high rate, and you can strike out at a 28, 29% clip. I don't think anybody will bat an eye. And so, given the lack of production from Luis Torrens, right, ever since Alvarez's demotion, I would have to imagine that Francisco Alvarez is going to be back in the major leagues sooner rather than later. Because, from the catching position that has had no production offensively for the better part of this entire year, maybe, just maybe, Francisco Alvarez can carry over what he's doing in AAA. Maybe. But at this point, can Francisco Alvarez be any worse than what it's funny because we were saying this about Luis Torrens, and he ended up being a little bit worse, I would say, offensively than Francisco Alvarez. But can Alvarez at this point be any worse than what we're getting from Luis Torrens? I think the answer to that is no. So I would have to imagine after the All-Star break, Francisco Alvarez will be up sooner rather than later to try to find some spark from the catching position. Some spark. That's what we need. Alex says keep him away from Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez. Yeah, I mean, listen, and just mechanically, the swing from Francisco Alvarez and all these highlights that I'm seeing of him hitting the ball over the fence dead center, right? Like 380, 400 plus feet. His swing looks like the 2023 version of Francisco Alvarez. It looks like it's a little bit lengthier and he's having a little bit more of a load up and his timing looks a lot better rather than the mechanical adjustment he made this offseason that he tried to implement when he got back off the IL that simply didn't work and all of his power was diminished with that implementation. And you can probably thank Eric Chavez for that as well and Jeremy Barnes with that that mechanical adjustment because it looked robotic. It looked unnatural. It looked like he was trying to make more contact and sell out, right? For more contact by reducing some of the power. It didn't look conducive to getting back up to 23 to 25 home runs like we've seen previously from Francisco Alvarez. That's the problem. And so I'm not sure if the coaches in AAA took it upon themselves to change whatever he's been doing, or Francisco Alvarez decided himself to change what he's been doing this season so far in the MLB. But he got away from Chavez and Barnes, and he's taken off. And I know it's AAA. I understand the pitching is, a whole lot worse than the MLB, and we've seen it time and time again. But at this point, I think Alvarez needs to be called up soon. Soon. and then you get to a point where you're trying to figure out how to still control the runners on the bases for the opposition, because Francisco Alvarez is not going to be producing what Hayden Sanger and Luis Torrens produce defensively, throwing runners out. So that's the whole spiel on Francisco Alvarez and the Mets catching debacle. It's a debacle right now this season, and what they've been getting production wise from all the catchers that they have in this tandem. So honestly, we're under 30 minutes in this stream. That's really all I had in this post game. I definitely appreciate it. The Mets are going to start up the second half at home against the Cincinnati Reds for a 3-game set. I don't think any starter is announced for either team as of right now. So check back in. We'll be doing a pregame and postgame, I'm sure, on Friday for the first game back in the second half. And hopefully the Mets can hit the ground running. And when I say that, I mean, hopefully this Mets offense can hit the ground running in the second half and look like a rejuvenated form of themselves, because this first half, all in all, has not been it. It has not been it. And that's what we can hope for. So appreciate you all being here on this post game. I told you all I was going to keep it short and sweet. It's a loss, walk-off win for the Kansas City Royals to salvage the series on their end, but the Mets do end the first half with a series win on the road. And at least maybe that's a positive. Maybe that's a positive. But I will say the sweep, I think, to carry the utmost momentum was necessary today, and they could not get the job done. So 3-2 victory for the Kansas City Royals over the New York Mets. The New York Mets are going to be sending, I think, 4 representatives from their team to the All-Star game, one of which is not Juan Soto. He was a clear snub. It should have been 5 Mets in the All-Star game, but they will settle for 4. I definitely appreciate you all being here, Mets fans. We'll see what the second half has to offer for this Mets team. I still have my hopes up. Again, 13 games over 500, 55 wins, 55 and 42 is fine. It's fine. And the Phillies, last time I checked, were winning. So if they win today and salvage their series against the Padres, they will be a half game up. Let's see if that still holds true. It's 1-1, bottom of the 7th between the Phillies and the Padres. So the Mets are definitely hoping that the Padres are able to sweep that series and help the Mets out. But I would just expect this division to just be a seesaw, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for the rest of the way. So enjoy the break. Enjoy the break. Enjoy your Sunday. You as well, Ricardo. I definitely appreciate it. Appreciate you, John, for showing up to the chat here as well. Thank you for the support. Thank you, everybody, for the support. I definitely appreciate it. Again, new video releasing tonight. Hit the notifications buttons. I'll be talking about a bullpen arm that not many Mets fans are talking about. He was a former Met. Maybe a little bit of a surprise to you all, but the numbers are good with this guy. And hopefully getting a little bit of help in the bullpen. We'll talk about more starting pitching, news and rumors surrounding the trade deadline for the Mets, as well as the bats at a certain point when we understand the market a little bit more. But new video today, 8:30 p.m. Hit the thumbs up on the stream, subscribe to the channel. Let's go Mets. Enjoy the All-Star break. See you all later. Peace.